Welcome to class 4 in the Digital Marketing and Distribution Certification course. Today, we are going to be talking about content development, and it's a continuation from the lesson we started last week on content marketing. Was it last week or Monday? On content marketing, and we're now wrapping up content marketing. And so I want to talk to you guys today about how do you develop content for your brand, for your business. Okay? And so now let me explain before I go in that this is very uh a lot of the elements of content development is very subjective, meaning it depends on the person, it depends on the business or the brand, it depends on your resources, your skill level, it depends on several things. And so, what I'm going to talk about going forward are some standard, you know, um, in terms of how you go about developing topics, etc. Those things are, again, very subjective, but there's some standard elements there, and the standard elements is what I'm going to go over. Talika was to come and talk about how she develops content for her brand. But again, for those who weren't here, Talika is not feeling well. Um, Unfortunately, she got sick a couple days ago, and it has just gotten worse. And so we are, hoping that she pulls through and that, she'll make a quick recovery. So, but because she's not here, we're really only going to be talking about the standard elements of content development. And then I'm going to give you examples of how I create content for my different brands. And then you guys can share with me how you have gone about creating content for the different brands. And based on what we learned today, how you think you could improve your content development process. So today is going to be a very interactive class. We have some worksheets that I want to take you through. And at the end, we'll have a discussion about some anxieties that I see you guys are having, and especially around the assignment, because a lot of it I think is not warranted. And I think maybe I'm not doing a good enough job explaining the assignment and what I'm really asking you for. And I'm hoping doing that in the class later on will help kind of reduce some of that stress. All right, guys, so let's start with content development. So, when we're talking about content development, one of the first things we want to look at is how do we decide what we want to talk about? If you, depending on the brand or the business, there are certain topics that you want to, create content around, or themes or subject matter that you want to create your content around. And if you remember earlier, we talked about being consistent, and we said one of the elements of consistency is that you are going to be sticking to a particular subject area, right? So, for instance, I use the example of Jackie Aina. Jackie Aina talks about makeup. That's a very broad topic, makeup. But then that topic narrows down to makeup for women. That's a narrow topic. And then that topic is further narrowed down to makeup for black women. And then even further narrowed down to makeup for dark skinned black women. So she's gone from a very broad topic and niched all the way down to makeup for a particular demographic, a particular segment, market segment, then, right? Dark skinned black women. And so that makes sense for you to do it that way because, one, it is easier for you to define your target audience that way. It is easier for you to communicate with that target audience, and it is easier for you to be able to figure out, okay, what are some of the pain points, what are some of the issues that that target audience have that my expertise in this very niche, very specific area can help them with. So that's what we mean by creating content pillars, right? And pretty much your content pillars are the topics, themes, or subject that you're going to focus your content around. Now, this may be not be forever and ever, amen, but certainly as your brand grows and changes, maybe the topics or the themes will change, but not necessarily the subject area, right? Um, Content pillars are used as guideposts then, to guide your content creation process, and it has several benefits, and one of them being that it ensures that your content remains on brand. Imagine a Jackie Aina start talking about um, food or dog grooming or shoes. It is still it's well, fashion or shoes, it is still a part of the industry that she belongs to, yes, and certainly she incorporates other elements like fashion. She always shows you her outfit, she always shows you her home decor. In fact, she has a line of candles, etc. And if you go through her socials, it's very decadent. She's showing you her beautiful home, blah blah blah. However, the content that she produces, the main content, even though it has other elements, is primarily focused on makeup for dark skinned women. So, in that sense, she remains on brand. And of course, bringing in all these other elements complements her content and complements her brand, makes it more interesting, makes it more engaging, right? And that is something you can do too. So what are some of the benefits of developing content pillars for your brand? Again, it establishes your brand authority. How do I know? You say you're offering accounting services. How do I know that you're good at accounting? How do I know that you're good at accounting? Well, I may go on your website and I may read some blog posts about you giving tips around how to file taxes. Or maybe you do speaking engagements, or maybe you have a podcast, or maybe you appear in the paper in some opinion piece or something. But there has to be some piece of content or something out there that I can consume that will convince me that you know what you're talking about, right? So you have to convince the audience that you have some kind of grasp of the subject matter that you are talking about. So, putting out content around that subject matter, the different elements of that subject, and depending on the content and how deep you go with the content and how much of related elements you bring in, that can be a very convincing way, or it can be very convincing to your audience that, yeah, this person knows what they're talking about. You also want to educate your audience, right? Because sometimes your audience may have been misinformed in the past. And if your audience have been misinformed in the past, and in order for you to convert that audience, you need to re-inform them or disabuse them of something that they thought before and re-educate them, then that becomes a necessary thing for you to do. And so your content should be able to help you do that. Say for instance you're a dentist, or going back to the example we used with Dr. Coombs, when Dr. Coombs had his series going on, right, and he had a conversation about gas and what Jamaican people call gas, and why Jamaican people drink tea for everything, etc., etc. He was in the process, or his intention, the intention behind that kind of content or those pieces of content, was to re-educate his audience, because he knew as a doctor that this is something he gets all the time. People coming in and said, "Doc, my stomach," and then pointing to their chest. And he's going, if I re-educate them about where the stomach actually is, I can be better able to diagnose the problem that they're actually having. or I can be better able to relate to my patient, right? And I can be better able to communicate with the patient because the patient is a little bit more informed. And in the very first class, we talk about how the internet is playing a role in informing persons because there's more information now available. What's the first thing you do when you're not feeling well? Say your arm hurting you. You're going to go on Google pain in upper right arm, and then WebMD is going to tell you that you have cancer, right? And then you go stress out your doctor. Right? But still, you have access to more information. And as a doctor himself, I think he thinks a part of his role is to re-educate so you can, even if he's not your doctor, so you can have a better experience at a doctor's office, right? You also want to showcase brand value. Remember that video of my island Jamaica when he went to Miss Sally, and Miss Sally was showing how she makes a Jamaican black castor oil? That was him showcasing brand value. How did he do that in that video? Well, if he shows his audience how something is actually made, the long and laborious process of planting the thing growing, picking it, drying it, shelling it, boiling it, boiling it, reducing it, throwing off the fat thing, boiling it down again, straining it. And this is manual labor, mind you. Then an audience member can say, actually, I didn't know it was that. It was this tedious a process. Now I understand why it costs $500 as opposed to $20, in terms of the price point. So your content can help you to showcase brand value. And when you know what exactly your brand is about and can define the topics around your brand, that can help you create content that showcases your brand value. You also want to develop content pillars that can help you build trust and deepen loyalty with your audience, right? And a large part of that is maintaining the authenticity and integrity of your brand, product, etc. And how do you do that with content? Well, simple. If you say to your audience that here is a neem oil soap that I made, is made from 100% natural organic ingredients, and then you're showing me a behind the scene where you're sourcing this 100% natural organic ingredient, then I now trust that when you say that this is a 100% natural organic ingredients, that is actually the case. And it's a part of showcasing your brand value as well. That builds trust. It makes me know that as the audience member, that what you're saying is actually so. Because we have had instances where people say this thing is in this, or this is an ingredient, and it's not quite, or that this thing is made of 100% Himalayan hand-sewn horsehair, right? And it's pussy hair from them cat when you're in Derby, right? So when you have content that showcases these kinds of things, explain these kind of things, then that can also build trust and deepen loyalty. You also want to make sure that you're answering biased questions. So, of course, one of your main content pillars should be based on frequently asked questions that you're getting from your audience or that you see people asking in general, right? So, if you are practicing social listening, which means that you're paying attention to what's being said about your brand, your competitor's brand, and the industry in general, and you see where people keep asking the same questions over and over and over again, you can make sure that you are creating content that answers those questions. You can even anticipate what some of those questions will be and preempt the audience by already answering those questions, because this can help with decision making. If you can answer the questions that I'm going to have, if you can predetermine what those questions will be and answer the questions, it gives me less work to do to have to go find the information. That's one. And two, I now have a better understanding of your product and service. Then yeah, that helps with my buying decision, and it takes some of the work out of having to do the price comparison and the search and the blah blah blah, right? So you want to make sure that you're answering biased questions about your product, about your service, about the business, right? Because nowadays people want to know more than just what is this product, what is the service. They want to know who you, what you do, where you come from, yeah, who you support. Yeah, people want to know that kind of information. So answering those kinds of questions, of course within reason, um, can get you closer to converting your audience, right? Lead generation and sales, everything I just said before: establishing authority, educating your audience, showcasing brand value, building trust, answering questions, can all lead to more leads, qualifying those leads, and turning those leads into sales. And that's the ultimate goal of content marketing. Nobody sits down and create content for just creating content's sake. There is a purpose, an objective to your content, to the content that you create, right? And so for most businesses, the whole point is to generate more leads and close more sales, right? All right, so I found this graphic and I thought it was useful, because what this graphic does, it explains how how you go about this determining what the content pillars are. And in this graphic, what it suggests is that the first step is to identify your brand's kind of like point of view and SEO opportunities. And it says marry top SEO keywords to your brand voice, identifying overarching ownable themes. Okay, and this is why I like this graphic. Ownable themes. Ownable themes mean, because you have that particular expertise, right? Because you are offering a product or service in this particular space or industry or market, there are some things, there's intimate knowledge that you should have that only you can share as the expert, right? And that's what I mean by ownable themes. You can even take common themes within the industry and make it your own, because maybe how you present it, how you talk about it, how you showcase a particular thing, it can become a trademark of your brand or business. And that's what I mean by ownable themes. Themes that really you're the only person that's talking about it, maybe in this particular way or at this level, right? The second step is to know what your audience wants to know. What do they want to know? If I am lactose intolerant and I'm exploring other alternatives or options, what are some of the things that I am going to want to know? Well, if it's not dairy, what is it? Okay, what is the ingredients in this thing if it's not dairy? Will it make me sick? Is there any other side effects, right? So you're talking to your customers to determine their interest and find common ground that you can then expand on in your content. The third step is to construct your content pillars. So you're identifying 5 or 6, I usually say 5 to 10 content themes that position your brand as an expert on topics your target audience cares about. Because if you're talking about something which I have no interest in whatsoever, I may be interested in your product or service, but then when I go on your page, instead of finding out more information about your product or services or about your business, blah, 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 you're talking about something completely different. I was like, okay, so I joked in you, Depan. I'm not interested. What's this? Right? And I've seen that happen with several brands in Jamaica. They're talking about clothes, or they make clothes or something, but when you go on the page to try to find out more information or to look at what it is that they're saying, one, you either can't decipher what the theme is supposed to be here on the page, or two, they go so far off topic that it's discombobulating, and you're like, okay, all right, fine, no problem. And then when you go to another page and you see that their content is well organized and it makes sense to what they're selling or talking about, it's less stress for you to try to as the audience, to try to figure out what they're talking about or what it is that they do. I don't know if you've ever been on a website or a social media page where you're trying to figure out what it is that this brand actually does. They say they do marketing, but you're trying to figure out exactly what kind of marketing they do, and you can't decipher based on the content. You don't know, right? And so then no, you have to message them, and then the response is even more cryptic. You're like, okay, all right, take you, God bless you, peace, right? Because nobody got time for that. Nobody got time for that. Okay, step number 4, frame out your subtopics, and we're going to talk about that next. Select 3 to 5 mid-level themes for each content pillar and dive deeper from there. And this is what we are calling our topic clusters, and we're going to talk about topic clusters later. And that's when you have a main theme, and from that main theme you're going to see how many sub themes you can get from that main theme, because you have one main theme. How many pieces of content can you possibly create just from that one main theme? But if that one main theme is solid enough and broad enough, you can get from that like maybe 30 pieces of content, right? So that's what they mean by your subtopics. And then finally, develop your content organically and thoughtfully. So craft effective content that engages your audience and builds your brand. What do they mean by content organically? Meaning, don't get stuck into, oh my God, Instagram says that now they're doing more reels and now I just have to do reels. You should incorporate reels into your Instagram content marketing strategy. Sure. Should it mean that you only do reels? No. No. You still have to put a strategy together, because what if your audience don't like reels? You're going to lose the audience. So yes, you're following trends and you're watching what's happening, and you want to make sure that you are in as best as possible complying with what the platform says it wants. But you already had an audience that had certain expectations of you. And so you can't just switch and go completely left field now, because you're going to lose them, right? So be organic about it, feel out your audience, find out what they want, and think about it carefully. Are you trying to build audience, or are you trying to build followers? Sorry, are you trying to build a community, or are you trying to build followers? Two different things, all right? So let me see, are there any questions so far? No, it's very clear. I see raised hand. Can keep the hands up since it's not your hand. Keep the raised hand up, and at the end of the first part of this topic, I will talk about raised hands. So guys, let's talk about topic clusters, which is step 4, right? Which was to create those subtopics. So let's say, going back to our content pillar, let's say, you know what, hold on, who wants to jump on? Who here is a brand or business? Is Boghouse in the building? Dana? I see Dana hand up. Okay, great. Dana? Dana? Is she here? I see her hand up.
Hi, sorry. I
Hi,
was
Dana.
typing.
Okay, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, so Dana, I want you to stay on for this next section, because I know you have a proper brand business thing going on, right? And so learning what you just learned about topic content pillar, can you or have you already identified a particular topic that you think is either unique to your brand or it's ownable, something that your brand can own? Have you in the past identified any kind of topics like that?
Yes, I have. There are several things that
Give us one.
um, so something that I can own.
Yeah, a topic you can own.
Um, One topic would center around authentic handmade products from Jamaica.
Authentic handmade products. Okay. So, guys, Dana says one of the topics, one of the content pillars for her brand. And Dana, what's your brand about? Give us a brief intro to your brand.
We are design makers of authentic products inspired by Jamaican roots and culture.
Okay, Dana.
You hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing you. Dana,
Yes.
one more time. Explain to the class what exactly it is that you do in layman's terms, please.
Bauhaus Design Studio,
Yes.
handmade, um, porcelain tableware, and lighting fixtures and other home goods inspired by our culture.
Now, guys, now, guys, I go to the wisdom of the class. Wasn't that a lot clearer than what she said before? Wasn't that second explanation a lot clearer than what you said before? What do you guys think? So Dana, that's one thing, and that's I'm glad that came out, right? Because one thing, Dana, that you're trying to do is, even though the first explanation made sense on a high level, you have to understand who you're talking to and your audience who may not know industry terms or the artistic terms that you use as a part of your industry. And so you have to find a way to simplify so they instantly, readily understand what it is that you're saying. And because I was just talking about going on a page and not knowing what the hell they do based on what they're talking about. But when you said it the second time, I instantly know what you did. You understand what I'm saying?
Got it.
Got it. Great. Now, Dana, you said one of your content pillars is what you said, handmade products,
Yes.
authentic handmade products. Is that what you said?
Authentic handmade products from Jamaica. Yes.
Authentic Jamaican handmade products. Beautiful. That's a nice, sexy, broad topic, right? Now, Dana, we say that you should create these broad topics, maybe 5 to 10 broad, sexy topics that you're going to focus your content around, right? But we're saying that what you want to be able to do is pull subtopics from those broad, sexy content pillars, right? And we say those are what we call topic clusters. And what topic clusters allow you to do, Dana, is to create multiple pieces of content from a single core or pillar topic that is usually broader, right? We also said that the broader topic acts as a beacon to attract the audience and link them off to other related content that they may be interested in. So Dana, let's go through the process of creating some subtopics from your broad sexy topic, which was authentic Jamaican handmade products. Now guys, we're going to help out Dana, and I want you guys to help Dana kind of come up with some subtopics or sub themes that she could create content from, talking about authentic Jamaican handmade products. Now, Dana, I think one of the first things you need to do before you start talking about, subtopics is explain to us what are these handmade products exactly? Because your handmade products You can niche it down a little more. So let's niche it down a little more. What type of handmade products do you make?
So the products that we made are porcelain dinner plate, salad plate, bowls, cups, mugs, anything having to do with dinnerware and the dining
Okay,
experience.
so porcelain dinnerware. That's
Mm-hmm.
one, guys. Let's write this down. So porcelain dinnerware. Where's my pen? Porcelain dinnerware. And what is the next kind of handmade thing you make?
We do handmade lighting fixtures.
Handmade lighting fixtures. What's the third kind of thing you make?
Um, porcelain dinnerware. How do I break that? I have also serveware, so large bowls and stuff like that. But that's in the whole dinnerware collective.
Okay, so dinnerware, light fixtures. Those are the only two types of handmade things you wear, like broadly.
Broadly. All of
Okay,
those can be broken down into smaller
right,
subcategories.
and that's what we're gonna do. So let's start with porcelain dinnerware. Guys, how many of you here are interested in porcelain dinnerware? Say I. I. Okay. So, what are some of the things that you would want to learn about when it comes to porcelain dinnerware? I will go first. Somebody says, Kalida says, how to care for your porcelain dinnerware. Brilliant. Yes.
Perfect. Mm-hmm.
Daniel says, heat sensitivity. Yes. I want to know more about the porcelain itself. How you make porcelain? What's the process of making porcelain? What is porcelain? Is it a type of, I know it's a type of material, but how you make it? Somebody says durability, how you make your patterns. Somebody says, can it become like a family heirloom? Earlier, Dana, you talk about the dinnerware experience. What does that mean? So you, Dana, can say to your audience that with my pieces, you can create this kind of experience that harks back to the days of large family dinners and you can make that experience whatever. You can suggest an experience to your audience, right? And you can say that
Yes.
with by using my products, this is what you can recreate for your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I would want to hear you talk about. Tiffany says multifunctionality. How do I use it to decorate my space? Um, uh, Proper plating with regular dinnerware. Somebody says how to make and work the raw material. How to create beautiful table skates for fun dinner parties, right? And I'm just pronouncing it like how they write it. Somebody says mixing patterns,
Yes.
decorating your table. These are brilliant, brilliant ideas. Somebody says, can I get customized a dinnerware? What if I want to draw my little thing and you create it for me? Do you do that, Dana?
On some level. On
On
some
some
level.
level, okay. What is the texture of the product? Can I use it for home decor? How do I use it in food styling? So you may want to collaborate with a food stylist. So when you're styling food, them can use your porcelain dinnerware for fancy parties. Okay, do you ship outside of Jamaica? Or can we get it engraved as a wedding gift? Now, Dana, you see how many subtopics the class just
Yes.
created, right?
Yes, I'm
So this
screenshotting them
is
all.
what was that?
I'm taking screenshots.
And you will have the recordings. I think the class did a brilliant job. Somebody says care suggestions, right? And
Yes.
so this is what we mean, guys, of going through the process. And we are just on dinnerware. We now reach lighting yet, you know. We don't reach lighting yet. So let's look at the lighting topics, guys. How many are here are interested in lighting? Say I. Okay. What are some of the things you'd want to see Dana talk about as it relates to handmade, is it porcelain lighting, Dana?
It's any material.
Any material.
Porcelain, wicker, glass, wood.
Oh, wicker. I want to know about wicker lighting. I want to know about styling options for wicker lighting. Somebody says how to set the mood with lighting, how to decorate the room, what bulbs I can use. Say, for instance, is wicker. We know that wicker is flammable. What bulbs can I use with that? Is it energy friendly? Can the light change with music? Cherise, you excitement? um, uh, is it energy efficient? Can energy saver bulbs be used? Like for instance, where in the space can I use this? Like the sizing of the light fixture and where in the room and what size room this light fixture will. You know, if you put big light fixtures in small room, it can make the space feel smaller. And so so guys, somebody says, can I put them in myself or do I need to have somebody install it? So Dana, these are all of the things that there's so many pieces of content, because guess what? With your subtopics, even the subtopics could be further dissected down. Because let's, for instance, take a subtopic of styling and home decor. There's so many ways you can talk about how to use my pieces to dress your table for a wedding, for a birthday party, for an anniversary. That's different pieces of content. Yeah. How this can become a family heirloom, how to store all this is part of styling and home decor, right?
Yeah.
How which themes, in terms of maybe if the dinnerware is green, maybe if your theme is forest, or if your theme is tropical, which one of my dinnerware, the ones that are shaped like leaves or breadfruit or whatever, which one of my dinnerware would complement the styling? So these are the things that people want to hear about, because more than likely persons are going to buy these decorative dinnerware for that purpose, for home styling, for home decor, etc. And so that's part of the things that they want to talk about. But if your pieces are also functional, they have use outside of just decorative, you also talk about that as well. And that's where they talk about, can I put this in the oven? Can I put this in the microwave? Can I put it in the fridge? If I put it in the fridge and take it out, is it gonna crack? All of these things you can talk about. And so this is how you create sub themes from your topic, from your content pillars. Now, there's another reason, guys, why it's called a cluster. Okay? Somebody says, somebody says, but the industry is not home decoration, it is design pieces. What's the difference between those two things? A design piece isn't a home decoration. Trisha, explain. All right. So somebody rightfully pointed out earlier that some of these topics that come up fall outside of necessarily your brand, product, service, etc. Because what you actually do is make the thing. So talking about home decor and blah 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 may fall a little bit outside of that. But what I would say is you can also talk about related topics. So yes, somebody would buy a piece of, how do you pronounce it then? Is it Boghouse or
Bauhaus.
Bauhaus?
Yes, Bauhaus.
So somebody would buy a piece of Bauhaus porcelain dinnerware, maybe because it has some kind of sentimental value. You cannot dictate to the audience how they use a product. So I might buy it because I want to actually use it. Somebody else might buy it because they have a dinner party, etc., etc., etc. So that is why you can talk about related things, because you want to capture as much of your audience as possible. And if you're putting yourself in the position of your audience and thinking, what would I want to know if I'm purchasing something like this? And again, if you understand your audience and know how your audience behave in terms of their demographic, their psychographic, behavioral, etc., you can then figure out what are some of the related themes, topics, things that my audience would possibly want to know about. And that's how you preempt them by answering questions they would ask. Home decor is probably a question, more than likely, that's a question they're going to ask. Of course, they're going to ask about how these things should be stored or used, or how to use it to decorate, or which space to use it in. They're going to ask a question, and so you preempt, right? um and
Yes,
you're
definitely.
also educating your community and adding value to the item. Thank you, Daniel. You're adding value to the item, because now you are telling your audience how they can experience your product and the different ways in which they can experience your product again, and it gives them more reasons to buy. Right, Dana?
Yeah, I agree. I'm in this process right now that you're talking about. So
Beautiful. So this
yeah,
class should help, right?
it is
Okay.
perfect.
So then there's another reason why we call it topic clusters, and this is the bottom part here, right here, where it says is it acts as a beacon to attract the audience and link them off to other related content. So the topic, which is handmade, authentic Jamaican products, great topic. Jamaica is a big brand. People want to know about Jamaican stuff. That's attractive. That's very attractive. But then once you pull them in with that and you start talking about porcelain, dinnerware, and light fixtures, and I'm going, wait, wow. So it's not craft necessarily, but it's still a type of craft, and it has to do with this thing. And so you're pulling in people who like the whole idea of talking about kilns and how to get colors from porcelain down, blah blah blah. There's so many different people you're now pulling in with those subtopics, right? And sending them to other places, like our 4-step kiln process. I don't know nothing about kiln, but I sat down on YouTube and watched 2-hour videos of this man, this little Chinese man, making this jar, and I was wrapped for the whole 2 hours, because I'm like, how the hell did he do this? And him show you how him burn the feather into the thing, and then you see flowers, but you say, oh, is it flowers and it's a feather in use? Mind blown, right? No, I'm not gonna buy this. I can't afford this, but it's interesting. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so, other related content that will interest your audience and that will go further to influence them to support or to buy from your brand, business, etc. So another reason why we call it topic clusters is the linking. It's important that this topic is linked back to your content pillar. These subtopics don't exist by themselves. The content pillar doesn't exist by themselves. They're all interrelated. Once you have that main topic, core topic, pillar topic, and then you are linking all these other subtopics back to that main topic, which for Dana is authentic Jamaican handmade products. Now, usually where you find this happening is not necessarily on social media, but on your website. For instance, if you have a blog, and this is one of the reasons why blogs are so bloody effective. They're so effective because I can go on a blog, say I Googled porcelain dinnerware. Say I Googled porcelain dinnerware, Dana website pops up. Beautiful. I go on Dana website and I'm looking for porcelain dinnerware for anniversary. And Dana's blog pops up. Say Google porcelain dinnerware for wedding dinner. Let's say that. Dana blog pops up where she's showing you in the blog, or talking about in the blog, or YouTube video of hers pop up where she's showing you how to use her products to set a table for a dinner party, for a wedding dinner party or wedding reception party. Brilliant. This is exactly what I was looking for, right? And while I'm on that page looking through, I see where she also has lighting. Oh, okay. So not only can I get the dinnerware, but I can get lighting that could match this theme for the wedding reception dinner. And I could just get all of that in one place. So I'm gonna reach out to Dana and go, oh my God, I came across your YouTube video and it was so amazing. This is exactly what I was looking for. Can we talk about this? Do you ship to US? Do you, because maybe I'm in the States. Do you ship to the US? Blah, blah, blah. And it's a Jamaican couple getting married. So I'm sure they would appreciate some of the sentimental value or the sentimentality in your product, service, etc. Right? And so that's what the topic clusters are. So there's the main topic, and then you're linking them off to other things that they may be interested in, because chances are if they're interested in authentic Jamaican handmade products, they're probably also going to be interested in how to use it to decor, or how to use it in home decor, how to use it to style particular things, the material that it uses, how you came up with the designs and the colors. And as I said, nowadays customers are a lot more savvy, digitally savvy, and the first place they're going to go to find information is online. So the more information you can provide about your product or service, the more you can convince them that you are the right brand for them to work with or purchase from or buy from. Make sense, Dana?
Yes, totally. This whole
Okay.
idea of lifestyle and building community is that's what I'm working on and trying to get to.
Awesome, 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 awesome. All right, Dana, thank you so much. Appreciate you jumping on with us. Um,
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate the comment.
all right, Dana. So somebody says, can we use a service provider with the same activity? Okay, who wants to volunteer as a service provider so we can go through the same activity? Who wants to volunteer? Kavir, okay, put your hands up, Kavir. Okay, go ahead.
Morning, everyone. Morning, Katie. How you doing?
Hi, morning. How do you pronounce your name so I don't butcher it, please?
It's Kevar. Believe me, I've been called worse. It's fine.
Kevar.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Kevar, you're a little bit low. Can you talk up a little bit?
Oh, sorry. I had on the actually speaking through it. I apologize. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All right. Kevar is my name.
Okay, so Kevar, let me
Yes.
go back. Let me go back to content pillars. Okay, so what can first explain what your services are about?
I provide point of sale system solutions for businesses. I
Point of
also
sale system solutions for small businesses. Okay.
Yes, that includes persons being able to track their inventory, persons being able to give customers receipts whenever they come in and cash, that type of thing. Um, I also provide consultancy for businesses, bar, restaurant, or general retail establishments. There are other things that are associated with those, but those are the two main things that I do.
Okay, so I'll do the same thing I did with Dana and ask you again, Kevar, to just
Yes, ma'am.
explain it for us laymen, in
Okay.
layman's terms, dumb it down for us. What do you do exactly?
I
As if you were
provide
explaining it to your 2-year-old.
Okay. I provide systems for businesses that let me start again. I don't know why I can't talk. I provide solutions for businesses that allow them to modernize their operations.
And what kind of operations are we talking about?
Uh, in the form of providing customers with receipts, in the form of tracking customer information, doing their inventory as needed, seeing what their sales figures are at the end of a particular period. I also provide consultation to make your business better.
So so basically you're saying I have technological solutions
Yes.
That can modernize your business. Meaning, if you're a little small shop, I can come in and set up a little till setting for you where you can properly input the name of the product that they're buying and the weight and the cost and whatever, so I can give them a proper receipt.
Yes.
Okay, you saw that different?
Yeah, I apologize.
No, it's not. No, I don't apologize. What I'm trying to show you is that how you explain something, how you define your business, etc., is important because you want somebody to understand what it is that you do without having to try to, if even if they
Without
have
trying to
no
figuring it out.
knowledge of what is POS. POS is the sale point. It's called a point of sale. It's literally which part you go turn up for cash goods and services. But that's the front facing part. But there's a back office part with the whole inventory and stuff. Am I on the right track?
Yes, you are.
Okay, good. I know a little bit of something about it. Okay, so that is how you want to explain it to somebody who they sometimes it is, guys, that the person don't know what they're looking for, but they know they're looking for a particular thing. So they know they want, they see the lady, they go to the lady store and she have her iPad, chick, and she put in her thing and the cash. And you're going, how the hell did she do that? Me want that for my business. But you don't know what it's called. So you go on the internet and you try to search for iPad sales thing,
Or iPad
right?
caching.
Or
Yeah.
iPad caching thing. So
Yeah.
you, Kevar, have to understand, first of all, who are you targeting? Is it that the audience you're targeting would know what point of sale means? Because if that's the case, then go on and use your sexy language. But if you're targeting small businesses that have only been using the calculator method, right?
Not adding machine or
Then,
cash register.
or adding, yeah, they may not know what you mean. And when you say modernize, they may not know what that means. But if you say you're going to use technology, computers, then they probably have a better idea. So that's one. Okay, great.
Okay.
Now, what is one topic that you think is ownable for your business? What's the name of your business?
Genius Solutions Jamaica.
Genius Solutions. So, what is one broad topic that you think Genius Solutions could position itself as the main authority in? Let's start with there, because guys, you see, because he doesn't have a product necessarily, although you can argue that the solution, if it's software, it is a product. It's not, you can argue it is a product, right? But in this instance, unlike Dana that has like a tangible product that people can touch and look at, etc., Kevar doesn't. He's more service based. And so with service based companies, the goal really is that authority part becomes way more important, because with Dana can literally show me a product. She can say how she make it. She can show me how she put it in the kiln and fire up the kiln and blah, 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 blah. I can see that. There's an end product that I can see, touch, feel, etc. Kevar don't have that. Most of what Kevar have is up here in terms of his knowledge, computer knowledge, so technology knowledge, whatever. You guys get what I'm saying, right? So Kevar has a lot more work to do to convince you that he knows that if him go chick on the computer and put in one thing when claim say software, it are gonna do what him say it can do. He has a lot more work to do to convince you of that. As a service-based business brand, I feel that you have a lot more work to do to establish your authority. So, Kevar, going back to the question.
Yes, ma'am.
Genius Technology Solutions?
The
Was that the name?
Genius, the full name, Genius Solutions Services Jamaica, but it's Genius Solutions is fine.
Genius Solutions. So, give me one topic that Genius Solutions could position itself as being the authority in.
One
Based
broad
on
topic.
what you do. Yeah, based on what you do.
Well, you said it a couple of times, actually, technology solutions. and then
Yeah, no, no.
we can
Break
break
it
that
down. Break it
down.
down.
Yeah.
Break it down a little bit more.
Okay.
That's too
Um,
broad.
yeah.
Based on what specifically you do.
Tracking your sales.
So tracking sales. What do you mean
Yes.
by tracking?
Being able to being able to tell if you've made $10 or $100 over a particular period of time.
Okay, good, good. So the top the theme, the content pillar for Genius Solutions is sales tracking. That's a broad, Kevar.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I want to go back to, yeah, at first when I asked you what you did, you said it was point of sale something. What did you say then?
Point of sale systems.
Okay, so say the broad topic that Genius Solutions is going to position itself as the authority in is POS what?
Yeah, POS systems. But then the thing is, though.
POS systems. Before you go to the thing is,
Oh,
that's
sorry.
the
Go ahead.
broad topic. POS systems. Okay, so Kevar, you
Mhm.
said Genius Solutions are experts in POS systems. Okay, Kevar, what are some subtopics that Genius Solutions can use to establish their brand authority and educate their audience? And I'm going to ask the class to help Kevar. So you're a small business and you have a shop, you have an in-store shop, and you want a fancy sales system. And you Google it and Genius Solutions comes up. What are some of the things you would want to know to satisfy yourself that Kevin, one, know what I'm talking about, and two, what are some of the ways he can educate you in exactly what he means by POS system? Somebody says, provide information on what is a POS system.
But
Somebody
stick
says,
up
do
in
you have a slogan?
sorry for interrupting. As it relates to the actual POS definition, because a lot of persons will think that POS is the swipe card machine for the bank. And then in getting into the conversation, I explained to them that yes, that is a type of POS. But the other one that I'm referring to, or the main one that I'm referring to, is what you can use to track your sales and your inventory in your store.
Right. So that's what we're doing. So that's how you're going to educate your audience. A part of the educating of your audience and answering buyer questions is to first explain to them the specific type of POS system you are experts in, right?
Yes,
Right,
that's right.
Kevar?
That's right. Yes,
Good.
yes.
So somebody says, I want to know what your background in the industry is. Somebody wants to know what's your educational background. Somebody wants to know, how will it help me? How will your system help me upgrade my business? Somebody wants to know, is real-time inventory possible using your system? Somebody says, what are the features of this POS system? Somebody can say, can you match the amount of money you made to the products that are sold? Somebody says, why use your system when I can get free accounting software online? Can it improve business processes and my financial record keeping? That's important because, guys, when tax time come around, that financial record keeping, if you're not good at it, it's going to slap you in the face. I know this from experience. Oh, Lord, right? You laugh because you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's true.
Free tips on POS security features. Somebody says, how does the system operate? Somebody says, exactly how can I as a small business use the system? What I'm not seeing anybody ask is, how much is it? Me can afford it? Can I afford your system? Is your system the right fit for me run a local corner shop?
Mhm.
Is your system the right fit for my local corner shop? Or me run a small grocer? Is your system the right fit? Is your system adaptable? Is it customizable for my specific type of small business? How do I is it covered that you may need to do some webinars, some free webinars to attract your audience to you so you can educate them some more, showcase brand value, answer their questions, blah blah blah. So all of these things, right? Benefits, because if me stuck in my ways and me been doing this since Wapikil filler, you're coming and tell me it's technology and software. Listen, me just want to calculate how get in the change, right? How can you convince somebody like me that your system is necessary? So one of the things you can talk about is how your cashier can be robbing you and you don't know because your system too antiquated, right, Kevar?
That is correct.
You know that
I
happen.
have seen, listen, I can give you many
Yes.
examples. I've seen that.
But you see, Kevar, you have that experience, and so you can use your knowledge of the system and your experience to create this thing. So you can be telling people like me, well, me no know, me can't even spell technology. That listen, if you should be making $1 million a month and you're only making, or if right now you are selling X amount of products, and if you look at the price of each product, you should actually be making $2 million per month. But when I look at your books, you're only making $750,000. Clearly there's something happening that you are not seeing, and my system can help you to figure out exactly what that thing is. It could be that you're being robbed. It could be that your inventory, you're not restocking fast enough. It could be that your inventory is out of is like stale, you have stale goods. It could be that you need to update your inventory in terms of brand. Maybe people prefer one brand over another brand. It could be that they might thief your products itself, they might thief your money and they might thief your products. Or when inventory come in, it's not properly logged, so people don't know that there's another box of macaroni and cheese in the back, right? And so if
Mhm.
your system can do all of that and you can explain to them that my system can actually make your $250,000 we're missing, I think that would go a long way in convincing them, right?
I believe so as well. You can do it
Exactly.
as a webinar. Well, a lot of
Exactly.
different topics as webinars, yes.
And we call that activation. And activation is an event or something like that, that you're using to one, reach your audience, make them more aware of your brand and services, and it's actually a part of lead conversion as well, right? Somebody says, and this is a good question, Dana, how easy is it to integrate your system into my existing system, or do I need to completely throw out my existing system? So there's so many things you could talk about, Kevar, and it's a lot of it is going to be steeped into one, establishing your authority, two, educating your audience, and that trust factor, especially when it comes to technology, because you know we're not a digital culture. That
Hmm.
trust factor is important, and being able to preempt them in terms of kind of having an idea of what the questions in that they're gonna ask you. I think that could go a long way in actually helping you develop these your content pillar and your topic clusters. Does it make sense what I'm saying, Kevar?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So guys, somebody says you can do case studies to speak to your different types of target customers. Yes, for instance, for me, the grumpy person who can't spend technology and want to only calculate and get change, you can do hypotheticals based on the experience that you have. You can say, well, in 2016, X supermarket. I went into X supermarket. We did an audit of X supermarket. We realized that they were losing X amount of money that they weren't supposed to be using. And then when we, using our system, we realized that it was an issue of theft, let's just say. So you
Hmm.
can use your experience, and you're not gonna call the name necessarily, but you can use your experience to create these case studies, as somebody just suggested, to as a part of the educating your audience. And the educating your audience, of course, it's a subset of establishing your brand authority, right? And so that is something that you also want to do, especially if you are a service-based business, because you're just gonna have more proving that you need to do. It can't be just it's a show and tell kind of situation. It can't, So
So I
unlike
come in and
somebody
put
that
in
have
a
a product
computer
that them
tablet
can
and
look
that's
at
it.
and go, ooh, pretty.
Yeah.
When the software installed, you can't see the software work, right? So you have a lot more convincing to do. What were you saying, Kevar?
No, I was saying that they can't just say it's a case where, oh, I come put tablet in and it works. No.
Yeah, yeah. So, Keva, anything else in terms of, do you now understand about your content pillars and then generating subtopics from those content pillars that you can use to create content?
Yes, actually, because the POS is one aspect of it, but then there are other things that I do in the business, and I can use the same
The
steps
same
that we've gone through
step.
here to put into those other
Exactly.
things too.
Here's a question before you go, Kevar. Somebody says, Matthew Miles says, how much info is enough? In the case of Kevar, who is service based, how do you organize what's most important content for customers? That's an excellent question. And so I would say that in terms of organizing, what you don't want to do is flood them with a ton of complex information right away. So I would say mix it up. So of course, you want to establish some of the main things: who you are, what you do, how it works, who it works for, cost. These are some of the things that you want to establish from the outset, right? And then we can talk about other things that are related to those topics. Like, for instance, is it customizable? Is customization based? Is there a price difference if I want one feature and don't necessarily want another feature? Say, for instance, Kevar is doing the freemium model. Remember, we talked about the freemium model
Yes.
where some basic features are free, but if you want the bossy features, you're gonna have to pay bossy money. Yes, maybe Kevar is doing it that way. And so, depending on the model that his business has, and this is another important point, based on his business model, that could also dictate the type of things that he talks about. Is it that after he installs it, you'll get complementary maintenance? Is there a maintenance that has to be done? Does the system have to be updated over a period of time? Is he going to stay on as a consultant? Do you get free consultations after implementation? So, knowing your audience, you have to anticipate what are the things that are going to be important information for them to be able to make a decision about whether or not they want to go with Genius Solutions as opposed to Resolve IT, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And sorry.
I'm saying yes. I'm agreeing.
Right. So the David Kevar will have to rely on his expertise, his understanding of his target market, his understanding of his existing customers, the experiences that he has had, etc., to kind of determine what would be, again, the most important information for my audience to know, and then him can throw in the other little things that will also help push them further towards choosing his business over another business. And that's where they said the devil is in the detail. That's where that comes from. Because, say for instance, Kevar he says he has other solutions that may be complementary to his POS system. That may be a plus. Or maybe he has very good customer service. That could be a plus, because he can also talk about his customer service. Let me tell you one content strategy that is very important. One content type that is very
Mhm.
important. Not just about testimonials, but if you can show how you have resolved an issue for a client, that is powerful. So, say for instance, Kevar writing a blog and telling you about the time that he installed the system, but the client was still having problems with theft. And then when he went back into the system, he realized that the manager have a little computer science degree and know for go around things in the system, and settings or features in the system were turned off or changed from what was originally there. And that is how he was able to suss out that the general manager, they have sticky fingers. and was using manipulating the system so him sticky fingerness could continue. That's powerful, because then that is Kevlar saying that not only can I install this, but if something should happen or go wrong or whatever, I can come back in and tell you what it is. We can figure it out what it is. We can always figure this thing out because you had this system. Kevlar, am I onto something?
More than
That has happened before, hasn't it?
yes, it has.
Yes, and
Senior staff manipulate the system. That has happened before.
right. And I know that because a friend of mine does something similar to what Kebar says, and I've had that. I've been told a story about that before, where a senior not accountant, somebody in their, not payroll. What is the department that
That deals with what exactly?
they deal with the money of the business? Like they're the ones responsible for calculating, doing the banking, making sure that they pay for
Yeah,
the
that sound like
account
payables. Yeah.
receivables or
Mhm.
payables. Which one?
It sound more like payables.
Right. Them, they were money. Right?
Well,
And the system was supposed to pick it up, but they were manipulating the system. So the system, I think it was something about changing some timer on the system, like the clock on the
changing date
system
and
or
time.
some,
Date and
right,
time.
and
Yeah.
manipulating the system that way. And he was like, this is not supposed to be happening. And when you went back, he was able to run a program and realize, say, this is where the issues are coming in, blah, 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 blah. So I have a little bit, I heard a story like that before, but thank you so much, Kevar, for participating. Guys, is there any question you have for Kevar before he goes? That's a genius solution, LOL, Nicole. Nicole just went. All right. Thank you, Kevar. Appreciate it. And thank you guys. You guys came up with some brilliant ideas. You guys are really good. You guys are really good. I think you guys have gotten this. All right, Kevar. Thank you so much.
You
So,
are very
guys,
welcome.
yeah, man. I'm hoping this was helpful. Was this helpful for you?
It more than you know, Kadia. Thank you. But one last thing, if it's all right, I would like to
Sure.
ask persons to follow my business page,
Sure,
and we
please.
can always speak afterwards if
Drop the
they
link.
require
Drop the link
services.
in the chat.
Okay, will do.
All right, then. Thanks, Kevar.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. That was great. I see some other hands up. I'm gonna get to you guys in just a second. I want to finish this section, okay? So guys, I think now you have a good understanding, but let's look at one other example. And I found this online and thought, oh, Star Trek, this is so interesting, right? So let's say, for instance, you're a Trekkie. You are like super diehard fan of Dana says, I do have a question regarding the main theme and subtopics. Okay, Dana, raise your hand and I'm gonna come back to you in a minute, okay? So say you are a diehard fan of Star Trek, yes? And you want to start a blog about Star Trek. And so how would you create, your content pillars and the subtopics for your blog about Star Trek? And I found this and I thought this was so cool. So the of course the main pillar is Star Trek. That's all you're going to talk about. Content is about Star Trek. That's your content pillar, Star Trek. But what are some of the things you can talk about related to Star Trek? So the birth of Starfleet, the Romulans and the Klingons, early interstellar wars, 21st century peacetime, deep space exploration, the destruction of Romulus, the Dominion War, etc. So you can see that from the main topic of Star Trek, you can have these other subtopics that are somebody who is a die-hard Trekkie will definitely be interested in, and you have some serious Star Trek nerds out a road. And so this is information that they will definitely be interested in. And let me tell you why I found this interesting too. Because I've seen it happen with me. Say for instance, I want to watch a particular movie, but it's one of those movies that is like a Star Trek. So say for instance, Game of Thrones. That's a good example. Game of Thrones. Now, with Game of Thrones, they've built up an entire world, right? And there's backstory on top of backstory and character arcs and character developments. And if you don't know what the backstory to this entire world is and the different tribes or clans or blah, 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 and their origin story, you're going to get lost. You're going to get lost. And so I'm not I've never watched Game of Thrones. I just don't have the patience. But I am a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Like crazy. I watch it every 2 weeks, the entire trilogy. Okay. So I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. And so I went on a whole bit. I've read all the books. The books. Yes, I have. And I've watched every video about Lord of the Rings, and I know the entire backstory and arc and everything about Lord of the Rings. And so booking up on a blog like this that is about Lord of the Rings, oh my God, this would be a fever dream for me, because now I can find out all of this information. And so it doesn't even, of course, it's not a business or a brand, etc. But it's a good example to show you how if you can find your audience who already has an interest in this thing, and you can create those content pillars based off the things that you know they have a broad interest in, and then you can create these subtopics or these smaller topics and create content from that, you're going to keep them, you're going to captivate them and keep them coming back to your page looking for more content. That's the whole point of all this. Because what it does, one, it increases traffic to your website if it's a blog, or to your podcast if it's a podcast, or to your social media pages if it's that, or they want to sign up for your email because you're going to keep the knowledge and the information coming and they're already interested, and all these other stuff are really cool because I didn't know that you could use this for that. And all this time I was thinking, oh, so that's a feature of this thing. I never know, so if me click the button on the back, it could have did this. You keep them wrapped, you keep them interested, you keep them coming back, okay? So over here you have the key. So the solid orange is the core topic. The target looking icon is the subtopics, and then this gray is the link, because as I said before, usually this is how you create your blog post, but it can be used for any kind of topic. The only difference is when it's on a blog post, you will have these hyperlinks. And I'm going to show you an example using HubSpot, because I think HubSpot does it better than anybody else. And you use these hyperlinks. But on social media, what you can do, for instance, is say you're on YouTube and you create a YouTube video about a particular topic, but you actually talked about something similar before. On YouTube, you can have what they call the information cards, right? And it says, guys, if you want to see part 1 of this video, you can click here. And you see them click there and see the card come up. And the card is telling you watch part 1. That's linking. That's a kind of linking. On your social media, one linking you can do is to say, hey guys, a couple posts ago we talked about hashtags, and I did promise that at that time I was going to give you an example, so here it is, and blah 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 blah. That's one way you can do it. On TikTok allows you to actually share a video as a response, to use video response. So say for instance, people go, oh, story time, right? And you're telling a story, or say for instance, you want to show somebody a process, and that's going to take a 4-part video because you only want to do it in 1 minute. You don't want to bore people. So you can have part 1 video, and then you can link part 2 in your comments, and then part 3 in that comments, and part 4. That's also a kind of linking as well. So while it is more straightforward, I would say, and probably in terms of the hyperlinking, you can really only hyperlink on websites. There are other ways you can link back to previous content on social media and other platforms as well. So guys, let me show you the example let me show you the example of what I'm talking about with HubSpot. Dana, I haven't forgotten. I'm going to come back to you in a minute. Okay, let's say we want to talk about content marketing, HubSpot. Okay, the ultimate guide to content marketing in 2021. HubSpot does that all the time. Ultimate guide stuff, and sometimes they give you templates, right? Free editorial calendar template. So now this is about content marketing, but let's scroll through and see how many other subtopics they've linked. And the first one we're seeing here is outbound marketing. And you know it's linked because when you hover over it, you see the underline. Of course, it's the blue, and that indicates that there's a link there because the regular text is not blue and highlighted, right? So if you click off on that, it's going to take you to an article about inbound marketing versus outbound marketing. So that's one, okay? Then they talk about inbound and what is inbound marketing. And then there's a video that they're linking in it, right? And if you go down, they click on something, you can click on something else and it takes you to a statistic. And you click on something else and it takes you to talk about social media marketing. And you click on featured resource, social media marketing calendar. So they actually link resources that are related to the topic, which is also something you can do. Infographic content marketing, and they have a link about infographics. And notice it's all HubSpot blog pages or web pages. It's all HubSpot. So they're interlinking within the HubSpot website or the HubSpot Academy. So it's either the blog. So this is blog, HubSpot.com, blog, right? And so what they're doing is all the other things that they've written about that is related to content marketing, they're going to find a way and they're going to create a copy, and the copy is just this text, in such a way where they can link back to those other related content, right? And I don't know anybody who does it as well as HubSpot does it, right, guys? So this is an example of how you can do this on in your blog, in your website. You can also do this if you have a podcast. You can also do this anywhere where you can link something. You can do it. And even if it's not a link, as in a hyperlink, I just explained to you guys how you could do it as well. On social media, right? All right, guys. So let's go back to here. No, the glasses are not just for show. I am blind as a bat. I am a slight Star Trek nerd, just a tad. I'm not ashamed. Okay, Dana, you said that you had a question. You can go ahead with the question, and then we're gonna go into how to identify your core brand topics. Okay, so Dana, go ahead, please.
Okay. The question you had mentioned earlier in the chat about creating many topics around a main theme. My question had to do with how do you know when to post those additional topics? Do you do, like, say for instance, I'm going to feature the breadfruit collection today. Do I continue posting about the breadfruit collection now, or do I space it out over months as opposed to just talking about breadfruit for the next and reusing that content? How do you?
There is absolutely no formula. It really depends on the objective. Remember I said earlier, guys, the objective for creating that particular type of content. So let's go into it, Dana. Let's say you have a new collection coming out and it's about breadfruit. Yes?
Yes.
So leading up to this new collection, you make the announcement that, hi guys, I'm in the process of putting together a new collection and it's going to be focused on breadfruit, one of my favorite fruits, an iconic Jamaican fruit. And then another video coming out where you're showing how you design, how you're putting together the designs for the collection. And then you have another video coming out showing about how you're selecting the colors. That could be a part of the design video. And then you have another video talking about how you how you created, how you created the thing, like firing up and putting in a kiln. No, that video about you putting the stuff in the kiln and frying it up and blah 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 and design and color, that doesn't just have to be about the breadfruit, but you're centering the breadfruit because that is the latest thing and you're sensitizing people about it and building up excitement. So when you're talking about how you come up with collection, you can have a broad conversation about how you come up with ideas for collection and then segue into breadfruit collection. Understand? And
Yeah.
you can do that right through. So it's not that you're just focusing on breadfruit. What you're doing is with every piece of topic, every piece of content you're putting together, coming up to the breadfruit, the launch of the breadfruit connection, you're centering that. So even when you're showing them how you make this or how you put this together, blah blah blah, you are actually talking about your process. But you are then gonna say, so guys, when I'm choosing colors or designs for my porcelain pieces, this is kind of what I do. And when it came to the breadfruit, what I was actually thinking was, this is an iconic Jamaican food, and so I wanted to incorporate blah 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 blah. You're talking about your process. And so that's one way of doing it, guys. But as I said, there's no particular formula. You can create a campaign to again sensitize people about the new collection that you have coming up and blah blah blah. And but there are other pieces of content that you could also create where you are now putting in information about the breadfruit collection, but you're still being general enough where I'm still learning about you, your brand, your business, etc. Like for instance, I think I saw a piece of content and you put up, Daniel, when you're talking about did you do a container? You had some kind of
A, sh-
container
a shipping container. Yes, I
and you
converted that
turned the
into my
content.
studio.
That was
Mhm.
a brilliant series. I thought you could have done more with it, but that was a brilliant series. So I got to learn more about you, your thought process. You kind of carried us through the conversion process, although I think you could have done a little bit more with that and give us a little more, but
Mhm.
I that's some of the ways you can do it. So guys, don't think that you have to just focus on one thing. What you can do, and this is a suggestion that you can have monthly themes or weekly themes. Carry your audience along. If you're sensitizing your audience and carrying them along, I don't think they're gonna have a problem with that. So, say for instance, I'm Jackie Aina, and for the next couple of weeks, there's been so many eyeshadow palettes launched, guys, and I want to take you through some of my favorites. So for the entire week, I'm gonna be talking about my top 5 favorite eyeshadows. It's not off topic or off brand. She tell you what she's gonna be talking about, and you're gonna be interested in what she's talking about because it's still about makeup for dark skinned black women. It's just focusing on eyeshadow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's one way you can do. You can create themes, weekly themes or monthly themes, or you can just again, if the topic is about the, say for instance, you said handmade. Say for instance, you want to focus on the handmade aspect of it, right? You can create content around the handmade aspect of it, and you can switch it up in and out. Just make it interesting. So as I was saying, there's no particular formula that says you have to do so, you have to, you have the 80-20 rule where they said, well, 80% of your content must be internally made, and then 20% of your content must be curated. You can do that. You can intersperse the content with user generated content, like people who send you photos of them using your product. You can put that out. Maybe you are featured in a magazine, put that out. Maybe you want to do a little live Q&A, put that out. Guys, I think, I know content creation is hard, but I think one of the things that we do to make it harder is we overthink it, right?
Yeah.
We overthink it. It can even be a situation where there's no real rhyme or reason. You're just putting the content out there because you think your audience wants to know, and you become a little bit more structured in terms of, like when you're having a launch or something, you put a little campaign together. But for the rest of the time, you really only talk about your product and services. That's what they want to know about. So you put out
Okay.
different pieces of it. You can turn it into a theme if you want to. Um, it depends on what your strategy is. It comes to your strategy, and it also comes back down to the objective. that behind each piece of content. And I feel like I rambled a little bit, but does that make sense?
It makes sense, which kind of leads me to a secondary question about reusing content. Is it okay to reuse old content or should it be fresh all the
Reuse the
time?
hell out of your old
Okay.
content.
Okay.
Repurpose the old content. You know how content is for make? That if you had a piece of content that you thought was really good and you didn't get the kind of engagement because at the time when you posted it you didn't have that many followers, reshare it and say, hey guys, I posted this earlier when I was just starting out, and I still think it's relevant to this day. I still think it's an awesome piece that I want you guys to know about, so I'm resharing it. Tell your audience that you're resharing it. They'll be fine. They'll be fine,
Okay.
because sometimes they would have missed things. They miss things and they want you to point them to some of the awesome things that you would have done that they would have missed. No problem. Repurpose content to you. Somebody feature on TVJ. Put the TVJ video your thingy about. Yes. Don't
Okay.
be afraid to reshare old content, but you just have to know if the old content was bad, don't reshare it. But if you think it's really good, it's still relevant to your business and something that you think your audience would really like, reshare the hell out of it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you have, and what you can do too is how you can elevate that is if there's information that you can update, because blogs do this a lot. They have what we call evergreen content. This is content that is always relevant to your audience, and what they'll do is they'll just update it. So for instance, the top 10 best social media platforms to launch your business, they could have created that piece of blog post in 2019, and then every year since 2019 they update that blog post. It's still the same blog post, they're just updating it based on if the platforms change, if there are new features, blah 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 blah. That's resharing content. So you can do it that way as well. Make sense, Dana?
No, that makes a lot of sense, and it will actually help me because I get stuck sometimes thinking that I have to create new content
No, you don't.
all the time.
And if you are really good at creating those content pillars, remember you're creating content around the pillar itself. What I would say is think of the content that you're creating around the pillar itself as evergreen. Make the content evergreen, which means it is always relevant to your brand or business. In fact, your content pillar, when we talk about being ownable, it should always be relevant to your brand. No matter the year, time, place, it is always relevant to your brand. So you can make that the evergreen portion of your content, and then the subtopics can change because situations change, platform change, blah 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 blah. But you can always either create the content from the subtopics or update that evergreen content and reshare it. Content and you think that your audience will always be interested in. You can have a throwback, like throwback to when I just got started, and you're so embarrassed because, oh my God, why did I create this? This looks so terrible. You're being authentic, you're being genuine, and that's a way of bringing people closer to you because people realize that you're not perfect. And you're bringing, again, if you're bringing the audience in and you're creating that community, they will appreciate that because you're not trying to come off as this brand is absolutely perfect and has never done anything wrong and blah 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 blah. That's where that authenticity and genuineness come in. I remember yesterday, Monday, when we were looking at what makes for good content, and Anika said that you have to be genuine, and Victoria said it has to be a part of the community building. That's what we're talking about. Make sense?
Perfect sense.
All right, Dana, thank you. All right, I see some other hands up. I'm gonna take those other hands, guys. Let's just quickly finish this section, and we are looking at in this section. Ooh, Andre says an artist can redo an old piece to show growth. Yes, absolutely. So Dana, suppose for instance when you just started, your pieces were not looking so hot, or you've changed your process or something, you can always reshare the video and say, hey guys, when I just started, I made this video and I wasn't that great at it, but look how much I have improved. And then you show them a new video with your improved process, blah blah blah. That way you're sharing that old content and updating them as well. So yeah, nothing is on the screen. I've not shown anything yet. Somebody says, Tasha says, yes, I see videos sometimes of people rating their old work, reacting to their old content. Yes, that's a very popular piece of content, especially on platforms like YouTube. Somebody says you can share bad content to motivate others. Okiri, doing so, you're pulling customer towards you. You guys are lit. Mobutu says, or you have a ton of new following that came along after the old content was published. Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. You guys are on point, on point. Yes. Kavir says, can you have a nested content diagram using a starter diagram as example, then on a dominion where it segues to other topics? Yeah, it can start with a core topic and then subtopics and then subtopics from the subtopics and subtopics from the subtopics and subtopics from the subtopics. It can be that way. It can be that way. Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. So let's finish this part. We are looking at how to identify your core brand topics. So we said earlier it's based on your brand's area of expertise. We said that. We said it is also based on your unique selling point or selling proposition. What makes you special? What makes you different? That could be a core brand topic. What are your audience interests? What is the data telling you? So for instance, what piece of content you have produced that your audience really likes? That's another one. Or the engagement was high on this, or data could mean, like for instance, what are the frequently asked questions that you get from existing customers, etc. That can tell you a lot about what your audience wants to know. What is your competitor talking about? What is the main trends? I think I have trends here. Right, industry market trends. What's happening in the industry and in the market that you're in? Say for instance, the industry or market that you're in, there's a new trend that has come out, or a new way of doing something, or a new process, and that is going to affect you. Or maybe there's a new industry standard that all persons in that industry need to abide by. Then that can affect you as well. You probably want to talk about that and how you are complying, etc. What is your competitor doing? What are they talking about? What are they not talking about, but is so relevant? Because again, your audience wants to know. And if they're not talking about it and it's still relevant, that's what we call a gap, right? And so when you're doing your gap analysis, you're looking at what's happening in the industry, what's happening with your competitors, and what's missing from those things. And then if you have the expertise to fill that in, because and it's going to be relevant to your audience, then certainly that should form part of your core brand topic, especially if it's something that, as we said before, it's ownable. It's something that your brand can become known for. Give you an example with personal branding. Naomi Garrick, everybody knows Naomi Garrick as the PR chick, right? She's not the only PR expert in Jamaica. There are PR experts are a dime a dozen, but she has owned that space. She has created content around that space. She has established her authority in this space. She's been educating people. She's been doing all of that. And now, when you think of PR, you think of Naomi Garrick. When you think of event hosts, you think of Terry Carell or Debbie Bissoon. They have owned the space they're in, right? And so that's kind of what you want to make the association between POS systems and Genius Solutions, or porcelain, handmade dinnerware, and Bauhaus, right? So it also helps you to connect the dots for your audience. You don't want your audience working too hard. You want to help them to connect the dots as well, right? All right, so I had this example of my island Jamaica, but it's the same YouTube video that I would have shown you before with the pure black castor oil, and there's several other videos that he has actually done that's also along this kind of route where it's about showing, it's about kind of showing the authenticness of the Jamaican made product, because it's called My Island Jamaica. So of course he's talking about, see, he talks about, here's another one, how to make authentic Jamaican tea, uh authentic Jamaican chocolate tea, um how to make Jamaican Easter bun. How much you bet me that he's selling these things on his Etsy store? Right? Bamboo furniture. There's so many different things that he's talking about on his page, all under the themes of, a lot of it specifically has to do with traditional Jamaican or authentic Jamaican products, traditions, etc. Right? All right, guys. What's next? All right, so let's look at quickly. So now that you understand how to create your pillars and how you create your subtopics, one of the most important things too in terms of content, the content development process is, how are you distributing your content and where are you distributing your content, right? That's important. And so in terms of where you're distributing your content, first of all, it's important to understand what we're talking about when we're talking about content distribution, because people think it's just, oh, it's just posting, where you post. That's a part of it, but it goes a little bit deeper than just where you post, right? When we talk about content distribution, we're talking about sharing, publishing, promoting. We're also talking about the channels you use and the formats you use. So it's not just about posting, right? So where are you sharing your content? How are you publishing that content? How are you promoting your content? How is your audience consuming that content? As in, which channels are they going to be seeing and consuming that content on, and what format is that content going to take? So all of those things are an integral part of deciding how you're going to develop the content, because depending on the type of content you're developing, that's also going to go some way in determining where that content is going to go, how that content is going to show up over there, how it's going to be consumed, and the format that it takes, right? So now, I said I would have talked about short form content. And of course, if you look at the reading list, there is a really good article in there from, I think he's called Sean or Shane, about short form versus long form content and the importance of knowing when to create short form content and when to create long form content. Now, short form or long form content, it could be any type of content, any format of content. But there are some elements to short form content, long form content, that makes them different from each other. And these are some of the elements. So we said the first element is if it's written. So we said that content can take really three forms. It can be written, it can be audio, or two forms, I say. It can, well, let's say three, because the first one is audio visual, which means video or audio or images. The second one is textual, which really just means written. And I think the third one is a hybrid, where it can be both of those two things at the same time. It can be video based, but also has an element of a written element or component. And say, for instance, a blog. You have a blog post like we just saw with HubSpot, where they've embedded a YouTube video in the blog post. That way, it's not just a written blog post. There's no an audio visual element included in the textual element. So that's what I mean by kind of hybrid, a hybrid format. But say, for instance, it's written content. They're looking at a blog post, say, for instance, that's 1,200 words or less. That's what you call a microblog. That's short form content. If it's video and audio, it's 5 minutes or less. And that's why when TikTok started out, if you look at TikTok started out with 60 seconds, and then it went to 3 minutes, and now there's 10-minute videos that you can make. Stories on Instagram is still only what, 20 seconds. So this is what I mean by short form content, right? Content that is short form video audio content, I should say. The videos are not long. They pretty much get straight to the point, and it's short in nature. Short form content, one of the elements of short form content is that it is instantly communicable, meaning that instead of a white paper where it's research and I'm going to have to do this long reading or watch this 3 hour video, I can instantly consume the content on TikTok. It's scrollable. That's kind of what I mean by, instantly communicable means it's scrollable. I can scroll through, watch a 1 minute video, scroll through, watch another 1 minute video, and I'm still getting the essence of it. I'm still getting the impact of it. And in that way, it is optimized for quicker consumption. It's easier for me to consume. It don't take a lot of brain cells. It don't take a lot of effort or commitment on my part, right? And so it's easier to consume. And of course, it's mostly distributed or published, I should have said, on social or mobile platforms as well as through emails, right? So let's look at some of the pros of short form content. So we said some of the pros is it's easier or cheaper to produce. For instance, stories. Stories are fairly quick to produce or easy to produce. Stories tend to be more personal, more intimate based, so it's not a big production thing that you're doing. Usually stories is you're already doing something and you want to capture a part of it. So stories. Another thing is that there are more places to publish short form content than they are to publish long form content. There's so many social media channels, etc. It's mobile friendly, right? Imagine a social media platform versus trying to read a blog on your phone as opposed to just watching a video on YouTube. The engagement tends to be quicker and more instant. People want to react in real time. Maybe it's a live and they want to react in real time to the live. So the engagement is more instantaneous. And of course, it's easier to share because a lot of these platforms have that little share button where you can, share to stories or share to another platform, etc. Let's look at some of the cons. Content fatigue. All right. So some of the cons is with short form content, what you tend to see happen is that it is shared broader. So not only is it's published on more platforms, the same content can be published on multiple platforms because they allow that type of content to be published, and because it's easier to share and it's published on more platforms. If you have customers or an audience that are different platforms and they're seeing the exact same content over and over again, whether you're community members sharing it or you sharing it or whatever, it can build what we call content fatigue. And it's just when people get tired of seeing the exact same content over and over and over again, or the exact same style of content over and over again, which means you're talking about the same thing in 500 different ways. I'm tired. Or you're doing the exact same format. You have the exact same format of content for everything. You're like, come on, give me something else. So that can build content fatigue. It has less SEO value because it is so highly consumable. It's something that you consume it, your audience consume it, they may not remember it afterwards, it's like a quick snack. It just runs through your system, right? And so, not to say that short form content don't can pack a real punch and have real value, that and especially if it has a viral nature to it. But what I'm saying is it is less searchable value on like a search engine etc., than a content that is more substantive. Let's just say that. That's not always the case, but it's the case most of the times. It's usually one-off pieces of content, because how many times can you do the same thing over and over again? It's usually a one-off kind of piece of content. Example, your stories, etc. You've seen where TikTokers go viral for one piece of content and they can never ever reclaim that virality on any other piece of content. You do have people that go viral multiple times, sure, but for the most part, it's usually one off. And because you're having to produce more short form content for your socials, etc., it's a higher production frequency. You have to constantly be producing these content, and because they don't have what we call reshare value necessarily. Dana was just talking about, when do you reshare a piece of content, blah blah blah. It doesn't have a high reshare value in that sense, and so you have to keep producing more and more and more and more and more of this kind of content. The other half of that coin is long form content, right? Oh, sorry. The examples I gave for each of these was with this is Lisa Gay Shakespeare. Oh, geez. Lisa Gay is a travel influencer. She's very well known in the space, and you'll find that Lisa Gay produces a lot of short form content because her primary channels are social media based. She does have a website, and if we click on here, you'll see that she does have a website. But she produces way more content, and she recently relaunched her website not too long ago. You see that she produces way more content for her socials than she actually does for she has a very lovely website that she actually does for her website. So if we go on the blog, you'll see that she doesn't really produce a lot of blog posts. And these were from like 2021. So the frequency with which she produces short form content is different from the frequency with which she produces long form content like a blog post, etc. Right? But and that's as opposed to let's go back now to long form content. So when we say long form content, we are talking about written content that is 2,000 words or more. That is, if it's video or audio based, it's 15 minutes or more. Usually original content created internally. So that's a feature of long form content, because with short form content, it's as easy as you're reacting to something. So you're reacting to somebody doing something, and that's a piece of content for you, or you're resharing something else. There's also curation that happens with short form content. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about, because I don't want to. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. When I talk about there's a high curation rate with short form content, because as I said, it's easy to share short form content. So for instance, what you'll find is this. Afrotech has a thing where, and this is what you call content curation. So you'll find that they do a lot of these videos. Now, this is not content that they create. This is content that they take from other creators and incorporate, why is it not loading? And incorporate it into their content strategy. So this is content from somebody, and you'll find that they usually tag the person, and you'll find that they do this a lot. A lot of their content is from other creators, and they will then take that and reshare that on their page, and they tag the creator of the content on their page. So these are short form content. They're easily and of course, They're not just sharing it, it is relevant to their brand as well. It's relevant to their audience. It's something they think their audience will want to see. It fits within their brand. There's alignment there. They're not just taking random videos. All of their videos are focused around black people in tech, which is what Afrotech is about. Okay, so they will find black people in tech who create content, or black people who are going into the tech space who have made content, and then they reshare it. So you'll find that all their content is around working in the corporate world as a black person, or especially in tech. So this is what I mean by it is cheaper to produce, because you don't have to be the one necessarily producing the content. You can curate the content. And this is what I mean where I says, well, long form content is usually original content created internally. Usually you having to put in the effort to create the content yourself, because who's gonna rip off a 2 hour video from somebody else to put it on their platform? You know what I mean? It may be behind a paywall or access through some kind of subscription, maybe not all the time. And it's usually on a website, music, audio, video platforms. It's usually in the form of a downloadable, or on some social sites. Like for instance, on LinkedIn, you can have LinkedIn articles. You can write articles on LinkedIn. Now you have a newsletter feature on LinkedIn. Twitter now has a newsletter feature. Facebook allows you to post these long posts and share research papers and stuff. So depending on the platform, you can post longer form content. So let's look at some of the pros of longer form content. And we say one of the pros is that it helps build your credibility, especially because in longer form content, depending on what you're talking about, it's going to take you a while to explain something or to educate your audience and so on. So you're going to have to use more words, and it's going to be a longer video, right? And but that in and of itself, the more you talk and the more people kind of get that you know what you're talking about and you are exploring different topics, etc., the more credibility that builds, the more authority it builds for you as well. It improves your SEO value, because especially with content that is evergreen, it's gonna always come up in the search result, especially if it's constructed properly, or if it's structured to be optimized for SEO. Then it improves SEO value. And another reason why it improves SEO value is because it's usually found on online platforms as opposed to social media platforms. So on websites, podcasts, YouTube, etc., right? Studies show that over time, these longer pieces of content accumulate more social share, but over a longer period of time. So you will have more persons sharing a research paper, or a video or something over a longer period of time, because sometimes what happens is you see it and you bookmark it because you may not want to read it now, but then you go back to read it and then you want to share it, so it takes longer for it to make the rounds. But over time, some research shows that it gets shared more. And of course, you are allowed now, what you can do is create what we call evergreen content that is always relevant to your brand, to your audience, etc., content that they will keep coming back to over and over and over again. And an example of this I can give you, oh, and it's highly repurposable. You can repurpose the hell out of long form content. Say for instance, it's a podcast episode, or say for instance you did a speaking engagement, and I'll give you the example of Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know how much of you know Gary V. And I'm gonna drop it in the resource folder. He created long time ago. He created this presentation on how to repurpose your content, and he's saying that he can turn one content, like one, say he did one talk or one presentation or speaking engagement, he can turn that into 100 different pieces of content. So say for instance he gave a 2 hour talk. That 2 hour talk can then be turned into a podcast. It can then be turned into a blog post. He can take snippets of that to turn that into short form pieces of content by taking snippets of that to put on social media. He can create quotes from that. He can create reviews from that. He can create stills, images from that. There's so many things that he can do with that longer form piece of content. Because if he's talking for 2 hours, he's dropping gems. Each of those gems can be a content in and of itself. He can either repurpose the clips, or he can take a clip and expand on it in another video. There's so many ways that you can repurpose longer form content. Let's look at some of the cons. It's time consuming to make. It's time consuming to make. It's time consuming to make. Think of how many things Gary Vee would have had to done to be prepared for that speaking engagement, right? He's gonna have to do research. I'm gonna have to put him notes together, blah blah blah. So it takes longer to make. So, but you're not Gary Vee, and let's say you're Kevar, and Kevar wants to do a webinar for some clients, and he's gonna turn that webinar into maybe a video on YouTube. He's gonna put the webinar on YouTube. He's gonna take clips of the webinar and put that on his social media. He's gonna turn the webinar into a blog post. It takes a lot to create that piece of content. If it's a written work, you're gonna have to do more research. You're gonna have to find more images, but it just takes a lot more to create internally. Externally, it takes a lot more commitment from your audience to consume that piece of content. And that is why, and when I say before that it's usually behind a paywall, think of how newspapers have moved their business model to an online subscription-based model. You're getting these really long, really well thought out, well researched articles, say for instance from the Economist or from the Times. You have to pay for that. They're not giving you that for free. You have to pay for that because it takes so much work to research, to write that article, blah, 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 blah. You're going to have to pay to consume it, right? And in that way, that is also more commitment from the audience to get the content, to consume the content, right? As well, even if it's a free post, like from say any HubSpot blog, it takes a while to read through all of that, right? And so that's what I mean by a lot more commitment. It's not always mobile friendly because ain't nobody want to be scrolling up for a 5,000 word blog. Scrolling. The attention span is just not there for that, especially on the mobile, right? So it's not always mobile friendly, and it can be very expensive to produce. That's one of the cons of long form content. And going back, let me go back quickly. I keep forgetting to show you guys. So let's look at from the comfort of my boat. Now, does she create short form content? Yes, she does. But the short form content, let me move it from here and go over here. All right. So let's look at some of the short form content that she creates, right? Now, notice it says full recipe on the blog, link in my bio. This is actually a blog post. And what she's done is taken some videos for her socials as a way of enticing, encouraging people to go to the blog to get the full recipe, full thing, right? And so while she creates a lot of these videos, basically this is her repurposing her blog content for her social media platform. And her blog content is usually long form pieces of content that she's then repurposing, because this is the blog content, right? And notice she has more images, she has more explanation, she has tips to follow, she have ingredients you'll need, how to make vegan oyster mushrooms, all of this right here. You know what I mean? And it goes on and it goes on. This is a long form blog, okay? And all she did was she took the video and put the video on her socials and say, hey guys, if you want more, she even have a table of contents, as you can see, it's very long. If you want more, click the link in my bio and go to my blog. So this is her repurposing her long form content for her social platforms, and if I'm not mistaken, she also has a YouTube channel. Jessica in the Kitchen does this as well. Yes, she has a YouTube channel. Jessica in the Kitchen also does this same kind of thing, where they use their they repurpose their blog content for their social media platform. So this is what I meant when I said that, guys. So let's talk about how you choosing the best type of content for your um how to choose the type of content you're going to create and the format that that content is going to take. And that's what I mean by the best type of content. So one, it depends on your content pillars. What are the topics that you're going to create from those content pillars? And then you're going to have to look at what are the type of content. So is it going to be audio visual, or is it going to be written, or is it going to be a hybrid, right? Is it going to be a video? Is it going to be a podcast? Is it going to be a blog? That's what we mean by the format. What format is going to take? What type of content do you want to make? Do you want to make instructional videos? Do you want to do behind the scenes? Is it educational? Is it informative? Is it entertainment based? Is it a mix of all of the above? What type of content you're going to create, and what is the format that that content is going to take? What niche are you in? Because depending on the niche that you're in, you may want to create longer form content as opposed to shorter form content. Depends on how seriously you want to be taken as a brand or a business. Depend on the type of business. And NCB may not do a lot of TikTok kind of videos. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean based on the brand, business, market, industry that you're in. Depending on which channel you're going to be sharing the content on or publishing the content on. It depends on the trends. What marketing trends are you following? Are you incorporating into your strategy? And of course, what resources do you have available to you? Because that is going to dictate how you create the content, right? And so we have a content distribution trifecta over here, and they've based this based on the digital media types. Remember, we talked about paid, owned, earned media. So what this is an example of the type of content you can create using these different categories. So for earned media, it could be mentions, shares, reposts, reviews. For paid media, it could be displayed ads. It could be paid influencer. It could be social media ads. For owned media, it could be website, blogs, social media channels. It really depends on a lot of things. And as I said, guys, one of the things I hesitate in doing is when somebody asks me, so how do you know for like exactly? There's no exactly. There's absolutely no exactly. There's no prescribed formula. All of these things right here, so is going to help you determine it. And other things that are not even here as well is going to help you determine it, because time is also a huge factor in the type of content you create, right? Audience is a huge factor in the type of content you create. What type of audience do you have? Do you have an audience who like it quick and dirty, or do you have an audience that wants to take time to consume, and so they want more content? Do you have an audience that would pay to have more content, or do you have an audience that don't want to pay for nothing and they want free content? So there's so many variables that you're going to have to think about, but I think these over here, they're a good place for you to start in terms of determining the type of content that you should be making. And a part of deciding that, as I said, is where are you publishing this content. If it's audio content, where you're going to publish it. If it's written content, where you're going to publish it. If it's other types of content, where are you going to publish it? So that's going to depend on the features that the platform allows you to do. If it's your website, there's so many different plugins, there's so many different things you can do on your website. There's really no limits if it's on your website. But if it's on a third-party platform like Spotify or Apple Music, if you're publishing music, or social media channels, or email, etc., where third-party platforms, and that kind of limits, there are limitations on what you can do, then you need to understand what the function and features of that platform are. What does it allow you to do? Where is your target audience is another thing. Does your target audience like listening to podcasts? How do they listen to podcasts? Say for instance you want to create a podcast. Do they listen to podcasts because they want more instructions on how to do things, or they want to be educated, or are they looking for ideas, or do they just want to hear stories about other people and how other people do it? Is it inspirational to them? Is it more motivational? Depending on where they are and what they listen to and why they listen to it, that can also help you choose the platform. What are your business objectives, and how can you align those business objectives, your business goals, with your digital objectives, right? There has to be alignment there. You're not going online for going online sake. There must be a reason, an objective. Well, a reason for you to go online and a purpose for going online. There must be some intention for doing it. Yes, you want to be online because other people are online and your competitors are online. That's the reason. Your competitors are online, and in order for you to remain competitive, you also have to go online. But okay, so now that you know why you're going online, how are you going to use the space? Right? That's important. Say for instance, sticking to the podcast. Say for instance, you say, okay, I think my audience would prefer a podcast. Okay, what are the requirements for creating that podcast? Well, you have to book guests, you have to do the recording, you have to edit the recording, you may have to have an intro and an outro. How are you going to promote the podcast? So all of that is the requirement for producing that piece of content. And does the platform allow you? So for instance, you want to do a hybrid thing where you have a video component and an audio component. You're going to take the audio, you're going to turn the audio into a podcast. Well, what would be the best platform for you to put up a video audio based podcast? YouTube. You can't put a video. Well, now Spotify actually now allows you to have a video component in your podcast, but that's recently. That's only recently. But what if your audience is an audience of podcast purists, where podcast must be audio based? You can't go tell them foolishness about YouTube. You lose them. So you have to know your audience, and you have to know the requirements. And again, what are the resources you have available? Is it internal, or do you have to outsource this? I have a podcast, Digital Jamaica podcast. For a long time, I used to produce the podcast myself, record, edit, blah, blah, blah. I've learned how to do that because when I just started, I could not afford to pay somebody to do it. Now, I don't edit that podcast. I don't have the time to edit. I pay somebody to edit that podcast because now I have more resources available to pay somebody to edit the podcast. So you can start from a point, and if you have the time to learn how to create the content, then cool, no problem. But that also depends on, can you get away with you creating the content yourself, and then improve the content over time, or do you want to start strong with like really nice, crisp, clean visuals and all that excitement? It really depends on how your pockets stay. You know what I mean? So, all right, guys, we're gonna end right here. Oh, okay. Okay. So, we talked about this already. So, here, and I skipped through because we talked about those things before. I actually came up with some content distribution strategies, but this was really social media based, to be quite honest with you. And I came up with 3 approaches: the octopus approach, the separate but equal approach, and the housing approach. And this specifically has to do with how to avoid content fatigue. This approach, in terms of how you publish and distribute your content, has to do with avoiding. So the octopus approach is where you have multiple. Say for instance, Dana does dinnerware, porcelain dinnerware, and she does lighting. Would Dana have both these 2 things on the same page? Would she have the one blog dedicated to all these things, or the one YouTube channel, or the one Instagram page dedicated to all these things? Or That would be the housing approach, where all the different elements of your brands, if you have 4 different products that your brand carry, all of them are promoted, talked about on the same page, whether your website, your YouTube, your social media, right? The other approach could be that Dana wants separate pages. So she wants a page where she can exclusively talk about her lighting, and a page that she can exclusively talk about her dinnerware, right? And so what you will find is that your audience may be split. You may have an audience that would only be interested in dinnerware, and an audience, and I'll give you a real, I know I have Nike there, but I want to give you an updated example because I used to use that Nike example, but I see where Nike condensed some of their pages, because at one time Nike had like 9 Instagram pages, and they still do have multiple pages, but I think the best example is the New York Post, and I want you to look at this. So New York Post, is it the New York Post? NY Post, is it NY Post? I want to see if it's the NY Post, because depending on the NY Post, you have one that is related to, is it New York Post or New York Times? It's New York Times, not New York Post. So New York Times have their main page. This is their main page. This is their main New York Times page. News related, all that good stuff. But if you should go back and type in New York Times, you'll see that they have fashion, travel. There's one for sports that I'm not seeing. New York Times opinion, art. There was one for sports, style magazine, and you'll know that it's an official New York Times book. So you can see the blue check mark. They had one for sports one time. Here's another one, New York Times events. This is one, I think it's New York Times China, I think. So they have multiple different profiles, pages that they're distributing their content on. And what this does for them is that, depending on the audience segment, so the audience that's more interested in sports, the audience that's more interested in fashion, the audience that's more interested in travel, instead of me having to go through your profile and find the content that I'm interested in, I can just go to New York Times Fashion and know that I'm only going to be getting fashion, darling, on that page, right? And so this is what you call the octopus approach, where you have one central page, which is their mother page, which is the New York Times page. And then you have tentacles, octopus have tentacles. Then you have all these other satellite pages that focuses in on the different aspects of the brand, business, etc. Pepsi does it, yeah. Pepsi Jamaica, Pepsi China, Pepsi Thailand. It's the same kind of thing, right? And then you have the separate, sorry, let me go back to this. And then you have the separate but equal approach. And the separate but equal approach is where you may not even know that the same brand owns these other channels, because the channels are autonomous. They operate on their own. If you don't know, say it's craft own this particular thing or this particular product, you'll never know. They stand on their own. And that's what I mean by separate but equal approach. They're all separate, but they get the same equal amount of content development and sharing and engagement and strategy planning, etc. All right, so these are just some of the stuff that I came up with because I would have observed this over time. So guys, it's now 12:24. There's another section that talks about tools, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this section in the resource thing, because all I did was talk about the content calendar, the task scheduler, and some of my personal favorite content creation tools. So Facebook Creator Studio, HubSpot. And let me tell you why HubSpot is a good content creation tool, because it helps you generate ideas. You can get so many content ideas from HubSpot, and it's very instructional. You get a lot of guides, you get a lot of templates and other resources. So definitely HubSpot, of course Canva, because I do all my designs in Canva. This icon here that you may not know is Unsplash. I don't know how many of you know Unsplash. That's where you can go and find free stock images. You also have Pexels. There's so many different platforms that you can go, but I really like Unsplash because the quality tends to be consistent. I am a big believer in the Google ecosystem, so Google Keep for my notes, Google Drive, because sometimes depending on the content that I'm posting, I would have to create the content, or it's easier for me to create the content on my desktop, and then all I do is upload it to my Google Drive that is on my phone, download it on my phone, and I can post. So it's a part of my production process. This icon here is for an app called I am an app junkie. I am an absolute app junkie, okay? This app is called A to Z Recorder. So say for instance you want to record you want to do something instructional and it's on your phone, you can actually record your phone screen using AZ Recorder. This app is called InShot. InShot is a mobile video and photo editing tool that I use quite often. Everybody knows Photoshop, which I do not use, but I included it because it's popular. I think everything that Adobe makes is from the devil, which is why it's so unnecessarily complicated and ain't nobody got time for that. No. And so remove BG. Now say for instance you guys find a nice image, you want to put on a nice white background so you can add text and whatever. Remove BG means BG stands for background, so you can remove the background. Now remove BG is actually a tool that Canva uses to remove backgrounds in their app. I do nothing without Pinterest. Absolutely nothing without Pinterest. Pinterest is my idea generation center. It is where I go to find inspiration for designs, and when I'm designing a piece of something or content, first place I go is Pinterest. Okay, so these are just some of the tools that I have in my content creation arsenal. There's some more, but these are some of the primary tools that I use, except for Photoshop, which is the devil. Primary tools that I use. In terms of scheduling and management tools, I don't use schedule and management tools. The only schedule and management tool I would use is Facebook Creator Studio. But if you want to use schedule and management tools, because again, you don't have time and you kind of want to, you're more organized. I am not organized. You are a more organized person, then you can use Hootsuite, TweetDeck, Buffer, Sprout Social, Later. There's so many of them. It depends on the utility that you're looking for and the feature that you're looking for. And some of the benefit of using these schedule and management tools is that it saves time. You can organize content in advance, automate reporting activities, social listening features. You can find out like social sentiment, etc. You can automate posting, and you can track which user did what. But not only that too, guys, you get a lot of analytics from these tools. These tools are very good at collecting analytics that you can then use to streamline and optimize not just your content development process, but the content itself. Now I wanted to go through some of the worksheet, but it's already 12:30, and so I think what I will do is I will just quickly show you the worksheets, and I'm going to encourage you guys to go through these worksheets for your own, for yourselves, because these are tools that can also help you. So there's our content, and all these worksheets are in your course material, the course material file in the folder, right? So content on, and as you can see, it's clickable. I've made it all editable, so you can edit the different parts. So this is where you're doing your content audit, right? I want you to guys to go ahead and do an audit of your existing content. How many posts have you posted? Posts per month, your reach, your likes, your comments, your shares, and this is aggregate now, right? Because what this can help you do is to see which social media platform is your best platform. You're getting the most engagement on, you're getting the most um, um, bang for your buck on in terms of the effort that you're putting in. And I want you to do that in terms of your content format. So video shared, photo shared, audio shared, other types of content that you're creating. What is your most popular content on social media? Total likes, total comments, total share, total reach. And you can know your total reach, especially on most social platforms have a analytic tool called reach. So you don't have to guess. It actually tells you. What are your content objectives for your different social media platforms? And then I kind of created a spin on this SWOT, and this is for social media content now. The S would stand for schedule. How are you scheduling your posts? And this was just to help you with your content creation process. Work. How long does it take you to produce content? Why does it take you that long to produce content? What are the top 4 areas that needs improvement in terms of your content? And what tools do you need to either get or do you already have that you're using to create content? And I do that for all your other sites. So social, website, email, yeah, social, website, and email. So it's not just your social media. So this is a very comprehensive content audit that you can go through. This one is audience mapping. You know, when we talked about developing personas, this is what this helps you do. Age, this is the demographic information. So age, education, occupation, salary, not salary, location, geographic information. What are the issues that your audience is struggling with? You can either list them or you can do brief explainer what you think those issues are. Where is your audience online? What do they do online? What type of content do they share online? And then you can create your persona A, persona B. This is where the psychographic and behavioral information comes in, like their interests, their social groups. And this is for two. So you see two section here for persona A, persona B. And what is their digital competence or experience level? Do they shop online? Do they bank? Do they use mobile apps? Are they Android or iPhone? How many devices do they have? Do they store passwords online? You'll be surprised that if you are dealing with people who are digitally savvy, they don't have a problem storing their password online. They'll probably use a third party application to do that, or Google, etc. And where do they get their digital information from? What are their primary news sources? What are their primary search engine that they use? And then from all this information up here, you can then create a day in the life of, because now you have all that information up there, and you can then take that information and turn it into a narrative about your persona, and you're putting it there. There's also a competitor scouting worksheet here. So this was for you guys. This is an excerpt from the book that I've been wanting to publish for the longest time. That will kind of help you figure certain things out, so you can know. Oh God, white squall. So you can know where you are, kind of based on what you're learning here now. You can take what you've learned, do these worksheets, and it can give you more information, more data about what's actually happening with your platforms right now, and how you can actually, based on what you see is happening, based on patterns that will come out when you do these exercises, you can then figure out ways to improve on that. And guys, that's it for our class today. I am going to go to the Q&A. Do you go for a viral content? I don't know what that means, Louis. Where is the resource folder found? It is found in the group folder that I have been sharing forever, that you all have access to. I've shared it in the group. Shauna shared it in the group. Tamara shared it in the group. Abanika shared it in the group. I've shared it here. I've sent it to your emails. So nobody should be asking me where that resource folder is at this point. No, I did not add the applications to your folder because these are just applications I use. Feel free to explore them. Caron had her hand up. Johanna Owen says, what group? The WhatsApp group for the course. Caron, go ahead. Caron Brian, you had something to say?
No, that was an accident. Sorry.
Okay, all right. Trisha Carrara, you have something to say?
No, if my hand was raised again, that was an accident. My phone is actually was down on the table, so I'm not sure what happened. My
Oh,
apologies.
okay, all right. Sandra Oakley, you have something to say?
Fabulous morning to you, well, afternoon to you again. Okay, so when I went into that lovely form that you created, that fillable forms that you created, I realized these forms were created for persons who are already, is it that these persons, you created it because they're already in the virtual spaces, that kind
I
of
would
thing? Because,
assume so. I assume so, yes.
okay, so suppose I guess we'll just answer truthfully in the case of if you're only on one or two small social media platforms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how many platforms you're on. Choose a section that applies to you. I'm assuming most persons here are already on social media or digital platforms. That's the assumption I made. And the book is called Digital Marketing for Beginners. And so I'm also assuming that persons who would be interested in the book are looking at how to create strategies for their digital marketing. And so yes, the assumption was that you would have already been on social media and been producing content for social media. Now you want to know how to improve, optimize, streamline
Wow, I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to this book also. Thank you.
that. Well, me too. Let's see what happens. Okay, all right then. Thanks, Sandra. All right. No, I am not adding the applications, guys. And why would I, guys? I must add the applications for how would I add the applications, Nicholas? Exactly how would I add them to the folder? How do you propose I add them to the folder? You don't have to get active again, because what the worksheet's supposed to do is that, say for instance you're relaunching your digital marketing, it can help you figure out where you went wrong before, areas that you need to improve, etc. You don't need to start again to do that. In fact, this is a part of the planning so you can start again. Okay, is anyone else having issues submitting their applications to her? What's the issue you're having, Asha? Joanna, is this your first class? Joanna, tell me if this is your first class. Go ahead, Asha.
Okay, so for my application, I filled out everything. Everything was correct. I clicked submit or save application, and it didn't submit anything. Like no pop-up happened. I emailed them. I don't hear anything back. And I'm not sure exactly what to do because I also tried calling them, and that's I'm not
You
having a
you
thing.
emailed you emailed the persons.
Yeah, so they gave you an email before you go into the application. So I emailed that. They're like, if you have any issues, email this email address. So I
Asha,
emailed that one.
were you at the orientation?
Not the orientation, I was at the first class.
And you would have heard me say, have you ever heard me say, all the emails that you need are in the group folder? Have you ever heard me say that?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you in the main WhatsApp group?
Yeah.
Have you seen any of the exchanges between me and persons in the WhatsApp group where I would have given them suggestion as to what to do if this very particular issue that you say you're having?
No, I never saw those.
You didn't see that.
Mm-mm. Well,
Okay.
the group moves fast, so chances are I missed that one.
Have you gone into the group resource folder and look at the emails and see who you are to email?
Nope, never know anyone. That's why I asked if anyone else was experiencing an issue.
Yes, we've exhausted that issue in the group chat, so I'm surprised you didn't see it. But what I said to you guys is that the emails for the admission officer is in the group folder. Her name is Arsenio Brown. If you are having a difficulty registering on the platform, you are to email Arsenio Brown. I even gave you a template as to what to say when you email Arsenio Brown when you're having this problem. I'm gonna go through the chat and I'm gonna reshare it again.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay.
Okay. Because the
All
chat
right
moves
then.
too fast.
Okay, all right. Website is down every time I visit. Andreen Walker, are you new here? Because I did an entire 3-minute video that is in the group chat where I would have gone through and gave you guys an alternative way to go about applying on the website. So you must be new here. Joanna said, no, but I've been having connection issues. So Joanna, you're not new here. You've never seen me post the link to the group. You have not gotten my email with the link to the main WhatsApp group. You've not gotten the link to the access to the group folder that has the link to the main WhatsApp group. You've not gotten any of these things. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Danique, the class finishes at 1. If you want to leave, the class finishes at 1. I want to have a conversation with you guys about the assignment. The thing is, guys, I cannot keep going over the exact same things we have discussed so many times because it takes up time that we could be using to discuss something else, and it stops us from moving the entire group forward because I have to keep coming back to re-explain things. And this is the importance of coming to class on time, and this is the importance of paying attention and following what's happening in the groups and checking your emails. Because Joanna, if you have been here before, if you've been to classes before, you would have gotten an email from me, because I email persons whose email I got. Zoom tells me everybody who comes to the class. I know how long you stay in the class for. I know where you drop out of the class. I know if you keep reconnecting to the class. I can get a Zoom report that tells me all of this. And so I use that Zoom report to get the emails to email people. So if you've been to any class previously, you would have gotten an email from me. So I don't understand when people tell me that they didn't know about a group, or they don't know about the folder, or they don't know who to email, or I'm not understanding that, and I'm trying to find the best way to respond to that, but it can be frustrating. It can be frustrating, and I think my frustration has come out somewhat, and I'm trying not to come off as unapproachable or not wanting to help, but it kind of gets there afterwards. Sophia, you had something that you wanted to say?
I'm sorry, I don't know how that happened.
Okay, all right, thanks. All right, so talking about the assignment. Okay, guys, so the assignment has been plaguing me, and I'll tell you why. I think I'm suffering from PTSD because of what has happened in the past, right? And I know people get so stressed. Can somebody do me a favor and just drop the group link back here for Joanna's purpose, please? Can somebody do that for me? I would really appreciate. I don't want to open WhatsApp and then have all the notification things go off. I know you guys get stressed out over these things, and I'm not sure how to stop you from stressing out, except to say that I think you guys are making much ado of very little. Not nothing, but very little. And so understanding that it can be stressful for persons, especially if this is your first time and you have work and you have family and other things. I've gone back in for the whole time, Monday and Tuesday, Saturday, and I really thought about it, and I said, okay, let me simplify the assignment for you. And this is what I did. I'm going to show you. So this is the group folder for persons who weren't aware that there's a group folder. This is the group folder. I'm gonna drop the link again. But before we do that, this is the assignment folder. This is the in-course assignment, and in it, this is where the instructions are. So I have completely changed the instructions, and I said, given the stated goals, you are to use the digital strategy template to complete the assignment below. And there's different things that you need to do at different times. So assignment 1, you are to outline 4 objectives, 2 KPIs, and 2 tracking metrics. Assignment number 2, identify target audience, primary and secondary platforms, develop 1 brand topic pillar per platform, outline 3 content ideas, and you get the point. You can read it. If you go back and you go in the sample docs, now in the email I sent, I would have explained to you, and I would have even linked to this document in the email I sent every group. The digital marketing strategy spreadsheet sample, if you look at it, you see where it says 4 plan objectives, 2 KPIs, 2 tracking metrics, channels, audience. It is already laid out for you. All you really have to do is fill out these different sections. That's all you have to do. You know. If you go back and read it, you'll notice that it matches, the section matches. Copy this document. I said I wasn't going to do a template, but I did. Copy the document, fill in the appropriate sections at the appropriate times, and submit. That's all you have to do. In fact, I would encourage you guys to copy this document and work on the document in Google. That way you want to download nothing. Just let me show you what to do. Right click, you have access to this file. Right click, click make a copy. It's going to take some time. Create a copy. Rename the copy Group 1 Assignment Doc. Move the copy to your group folder, which is here. I didn't create the group folders. I'm sorry. I'm going to create a group folder. Say it's group folder 1. Say it's group number 1. I'll create the folders. For some reason, I thought I did. Group 1. So you're going to move it to group 1. Move here. Move. When you go to your group folder, the copy is there. That's all I would say you should do. So in that way, you don't have to download anything. You can just edit it right here in Google, and it will save you guys trouble. So you'd have to keep re-uploading the document. And when I go in, I'll know that this is what I'm looking at in the first instance, then this, then right? That's all I'm asking you guys to do. You know. It's really not as hard as you think it is. I've already created the document for you. This is a sample document because some of it is filled out already, so you can see what I'm expecting to get from you guys. You can already see it. It's there. It's there. That's it. And now, I don't know how many of you actually went into your course material and opened the course outline, because then you would have known when there's going to be a guest presenter, because it says guest presenter. You would also know, and you would have also seen that at the end, you are expected to do group presentations. And I said in the class yesterday, again, me thinking, how can I make this less stressful and more fun? I said, hey guys, let's turn this into a pitch competition where all you have to do is turn your assignment into a pitch and present it. Now, if you guys already have all of this information, and I say, do a pitch, instead of doing your presentation, do a pitch. All I would expect you guys to do is, say, for instance, you already know what the campaign is, because guess what? Going back to the assignment folder, going back to the assignment, you have an entire case study here. So it says, the membership to the club has been static for a while and they're exploding, blah, 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 blah. And they've now created the internship program. So, of course, you're going to be creating a campaign to promote the internship program. So, I'm not asking you to generate something out of nothing. You already have enough information here on what you're going to create the campaign around. And then you already know what content you're going to produce because you put that in your assignment. You know which platform because you put that in your assignment. You are also supposed to tell me which content is paid and which content is not. All I would have expected is that you guys are going to say, okay, which one of our content is paid? Let's turn that paid thing into the pitch for the campaign. That's it, guys. That's all I'm asking you to do. It is not that hard. You already have the information. And instead of just come sitting down and presenting the spreadsheet, turn it into a pitch. We're going to take just one part of it and pitch it. Say, for instance, you're pitching it to Lignum Vitae. And there's a reward at the end for the class decides who had the best pitch. And that group gets rewarded. No, guys, that's literally all I'm asking you guys to do. And I see people, I've gotten so many messages. I got so many messages yesterday. Miss stress out. I'm tired. And one person properly told me that they think it is unfair. And that's not what you said in the beginning and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, you guys are adults who work in an office, most of you. And if your boss came to you and say, hey, we want to kind of change, this is how you react to these kinds of things. I'm trying to understand. But, I was told that you guys should have a voice. And so I'm going to put it to you. Would you guys prefer just a group presentation? Or would you guys prefer to do the pitch? Whatever you guys decide is the direction we are going to go in, because I don't want to stress anybody out or cause anybody any undue anxiety, because stress and anxiety is not pleasant coming from somebody who has anxiety problems. So let us vote. I'm going to put together a quick poll. So let's look at the poll. So 77% of you so 61 of you voted out of 80 persons who are here, and most of you said yes to the pitch competition. Okay. Now guys, in the group, I would have given you some tips yesterday as to how I think you guys should conduct your groups, because I see some of you are struggling. I would say you can appoint a group lead and an assistant group lead, and those persons will be responsible for coordinating the groups. Guys, there will never be a good time to meet because you all have different schedules. Some sacrifices are going to be made and adjustments so you can meet with your group. And I would say Thursday is a holiday, tomorrow is a holiday, there's another holiday coming up on Monday. There are different holidays coming up that I think you guys should take advantage of to meet. Don't try using Zoom if you don't have a professional Zoom account. It will kick you off and it can, cause problems with the meeting. Use Google Meet. It's free and you can be on it for hours if you want to. Another thing is, it makes sense for you to determine in the group who has what competencies and what skill level, and then assign tasks accordingly. You can split up the assignment and have different people doing different parts of the assignment, but you guys must come back together and discuss submissions, because what I've seen happen is that people are just putting different parts in the assignment and then the assignment is uploaded and it's not cohesive. You can tell that different people did different pieces of the assignment. Some people are way more, their English is better, let's just put it that way. And some people, not so much. Not so much. So some parts of the assignment I can read through and understand, and some parts of the assignment I need an interpreter for. So in order for it to be coordinated and cohesive, you guys need to meet as a group, discuss the assignment thoroughly, let people decide which part of the assignment they think they'll be most comfortable working on. Have somebody coordinate the people doing the assignment, submitting it, having another meeting where you go through the different submissions. So if there's any corrections to be made, any edits to be made, if the person didn't do a sufficient job, that can be reassigned to them. All that different thing you guys need to do as a group. If it is that somebody cannot meet, no problem, they can't meet. Make sure that you record the session and that person can watch the recording, or you can say that this is what was decided because you were not there. We don't, you know, before you guys meet, you can do the who is competent in doing what. And so you can assign that person thing based on what they said they were competent with, and just let them know that we met, and you know, you weren't there, but you said you were competent in this, so we think you can do this. Make sure that you are discussing these things and communicating, because I can't tell you how many times I've gotten complaints that nobody never say nothing to me. I mean, just do a thing, and I couldn't go to meetings them, and them give me something for do what I can't do. And if this was I want you guys to behave as how you behave if this was a paid course. Let me just leave it right there. Yes, so on the 20th, we are gonna have a presentation by an email marketing expert, because next week, Monday, we start email and website marketing, and she's gonna come and talk to us about email and email campaigns, etc. Now, she's gonna send in her video, which is gonna be recorded, and then she's gonna show up for a Q&A segment where you can ask her questions, etc. Her name is Anna Serena, and she's the founder of Affiliate Marketing. And she's going to be on hand to talk to us. The 20th is Wednesday? Is it? Oh, yes, because Monday is a holiday. Yes. Next week, Wednesday. Monday is a holiday, so there's no class on Monday. There are no classes on Monday. There's no class on Monday, guys. So Anna is going to be here next week, Wednesday, to talk to us about email marketing. And I can also confirm that Inspector Sean J. What is Inspector Sean J? Sean J. Is it Campbell? I want to say Campbell. Inspector Sean J. Mitchell, who is the head of digital marketing and digital communications at the Jamaica Constabulary Force, and one of the strategic minds behind all them excitement new campaigns that you see them putting out. He's going to be here on the 2nd of May to talk to us about how to create social media campaigns for your brand and business. So I'm excited about that. He's going to tell you what the story was behind them excitement social media campaigns are and all that good stuff. Now I'm hoping nothing happens. He has confirmed, and I'm hoping everything goes well until then. We also have another presenter who's also very good, Sheldon Harrison. He's an SEO specialist. He works at the Yellow Media Group, and he's going to come and talk to us about SEO, because SEO can be messy and complicated, child. And I am not an SEO expert. And so I've asked him to come in and kind of give us the, about SEO. And who else? I have some special things for you guys as well. Working on a special exclusive workshop session for you guys with somebody absolutely fabulous, and it's only going to be for this group, and I'm thinking it is only going to be for the group who win the competition. I think that's going to be the prize. And I'm working on getting you guys some more stuff. So I'm in the background working, guys. Okay? And so as things come through, I will announce. I will make some announcements. All right, guys. So I'm hungry and I'm going to have lunch. And it's already 12 minutes after 1. The name of the guest speaker for the 20th is Anna, A-N-N, Serena, S-E-R-A-Y-N-A. She's most active on Twitter, and she is one of the only email experts I know in Jamaica. She has clients who are mostly non-Jamaican, and she is just really good at it, and she's gonna come and really give us the lowdown. And I have some really good tools for you guys on email marketing is like some really awesome tools where you can literally just copy and paste. So looking forward to that next week, Wednesday, guys. Have a great rest of the week. Guys, for the groups, if you're having problems with understanding the assignment, book a office hour session with me so I can go through with you guys and answer the questions that you have. Use up the resources that are available to you. Enjoy your holidays, and I will see you guys next week, Wednesday. Let's take the conversation over into the WhatsApp chat. And we can go from here. Have a good Easter week. Oh yes, Easter weekend. Have a good Easter weekend, guys, and I'll see you next week, Wednesday. Bye.